Hello and welcome to Bookish and Beverages. I'm Melissa and I share delicious beverages and summary recaps on fantasy book series so you can remember what happened without having to reread it. And today we will be diving into Six Scorched Roses by Carissa Broadbent. This is book 1.5 in the Crowns of Nyaxia series, and it could also be read as a standalone novella. And two reminders before we start. One, content warning, there are full spoilers ahead. So we'll be diving into all of the main plot points, the characters, world building, and any plot twists. And if you haven't read this book yet, you can pause and come back. Or if you just don't fucking care, you can carry on then. And second, this is not my review or opinion of the book. However, I may have some thoughts and inputs from time to time. And speaking of thoughts and input for a standalone novella, I absolutely loved this one. Now let's go get our drink on. And for today's beverage, we'll be making a Rose Matcha Latte. Here's what you'll need. 1 tablespoon of rose petals, 1 serving of matcha powder, or 1 to 2 teaspoons of matcha powder, depending on what you're using. You'll need a 1/4 cup of boiling water and 3/4 cup of hot or cold milk of your choice. You have the option to keep this as a hot latte or an iced latte, whatever your preference is. Add 1 tablespoon of rose petals to your mug and tea strainer and about a 1/4 cup of boiling water, and then cover it. Let it steep for about 2 to 3 minutes. And once your tea is done steeping, go ahead and strain it. Add a sweetener of your choice to taste. Whisk it. Then add your matcha powder and whisk it. Once that is done, go ahead and pour your milk. You would add your ice if you did want an iced latte right here. Give it a quick little stir and cheers. Drinks in hand, let's go ahead and dive into our book, and we'll start with a quick world building overview. So this book actually takes place in the human lands, but there is mention of Obatrace in this book, which is the land where the vampires all reside, and there's 3 kingdoms within Obatrace. You have the House of Shadow, the House of Blood, and the House of Night. And the House of Night has 2 clans. You have the Hayaj, which are basically your bat boy wings, and then you have the Rishan, which are like your bird feathered wings. Nyaxia, she's the goddess and the mother of the vampires, and she was exiled by the White Pantheon, who are the core 12 gods that the humans worship. And so basically Nyaxia and the White Pantheon have some bad blood going on. Lilith is born sickly and dying. At 8 years old, her mother passes away after giving birth to her sister Mina. At 15, Lilith sees her father go out into the fields and curses Vitaris, the god of abundance, for their poor harvests. In turn, Vitaris curses their family town, Adkova. With a withering plague, her father is the first to die from it. 15 years later, the plague is still going on, and this time it's come for Mina, her sister. And to Lilith's surprise, she's still alive, and she's living on borrowed time because she was just born with that deathly ill. She has become a scientist and is searching and testing for a cure. She gets an idea one day and takes a special black rose, which is one of the few plants that is able to still grow, and she sets off to meet with the mysterious resident vampire. In his antique-cluttered mansion, Lilith makes an offer to Vale the vampire. 4 vials of his blood in exchange for a special rose each month for 6 months. At first, he laughs her off with a big fat no. And then he changes his mind, and Lilith luckily has her equipment on her and draws the first 4 vials of blood. Back in her office, Lilith uses a microscope projection instrument that was created with the magic of a god to view the vampire blood. To her, she sees beauty, life, and an astounding miracle in the blood flower petal patterns. Say that 5 times fast. Lilith heads to Bazia to meet up and ask Pharaoh, another scientist and former lover, for help on distilling the blood without using magic. She doesn't tell him what it is at first because the gods and magic can be fickle, especially because of their bad blood with Nyaxia and her children. He guesses what it is and expresses his concerns for her, so she tells Pharaoh, "Bye, Felicia," and despite his pleas to stay, she sets off and goes to see Vale. Lilith lets herself into Vale's home when he doesn't answer. She walks up the stairs, looking at his unique artifacts, and hears noises. Always curious, she follows the noises to Vale's bedroom, where he's banging the brains out of a woman. Once they finish, he realizes she's standing there and has been watching them. Voyeurism much? The vampire woman leaves and Lilith draws his blood while asking him 21 questions. On her way out of the house, Vale delights her with the facts about different artifacts and paintings that he has. It is late in the night, and even surprising himself, Vale offers her to stay until morning, even willing to share his bed. Her thoughts wander off into vivid imaginations about being in the woman's place, having Vale take her rough and hard and she asks him about his sense of smell, and he gets up close and personal with her. He calls her out, wanting to give in to her desires, but she basically shrugs him off and heads home. Finally home, she finds Mina, and she's only getting worse. Working away like a mad scientist for weeks, Lilith finally produces a viable medicinal potion that she tests on rats. She realizes she's run out of vials of Vale's blood, and sets off to his house during the night in a storm. Time is of the essence for her. A group of men hold her hostage and search her for food and valuables. Just when she's about to strip down for them, Vale comes to the rescue and attacks them all. He flies her away to safety, and she loses consciousness. Lilith wakes up 3 days later in Vale's house. Vale makes her stay and sends an errand boy to check on her sister. Bored and having to sit in bed and rest, Lilith convinces Vale to read some obituarian bedtime stories to her until she falls asleep. Waking up feeling better, she wanders around his cluttered home and stumbles upon a weaponry in one of the throne rooms. Vale sneaks up on her and shares he was a general, the third best in the House of Night. Lilith draws his blood again until there's a knock on the door. A faceless person. The faceless person turns out to be a ghostly messenger with a letter for Vale. He's upset that he keeps getting asked to join the Rishans' losing war to take back the throne and doesn't want to support the bastard king that would take the throne. Lilith gives him a piece of her mind. Vale asks her to show him his blood and changes his tune. Whatever you need, it's yours. Over the next few days, Lilith and Vale work together like giddy little students and research as they pore over books in his home, growing closer together. A week in the books at Vale's, Lilith decides it's time to go home. Just before Vale sends her off, he asks if they can be pen pals. Later that evening, she gets her first letter from Vale with book pages and some notes. Her sister warns her to be careful. The letters are flowing between them as their new pen pal relationship blossoms. One day, Lilith comes home to see the priest praying with Mina. Definitely not a good sign. Another letter arrives from Vale with the missing key they've been searching for. After days of more experiments, Lilith concocts a medicinal potion that becomes a cure. Pharaoh shows up, warning her the ignorant zealots are coming for you and him. Mina comes in and Lilith injects her with medicine. Guess it's time to find out if it works on humans. Like a badass, Lilith grabs an axe and heads out with Pharaoh. Riding as fast as her horse can take her, Lilith arrives to the smell of fire and sees blood everywhere. Bodies litter the property like Halloween decorations. She finds Vale in the backyard, seriously injured and weakened, surrounded by the idiot priest and his henchmen. She goes between them and yells for them to stop, but these fearful zealots won't listen. Wielding her tiny axe, she slices the priest's shoulder and then his throat. Vale goes wild and punches the priest's chest, grabbing out his heart like a Temple of Doom sacrifice. Pharaoh and Lilith help Vale into the house and out of the sun. Lilith sends Pharaoh away with the medicine to help save the ungrateful town while she stays with Vale. Lilith burns the body, then helps Vale heal with the medicine he has. He tells her he plans to go back to Obatrace. He tells her that he wants her, whatever she can give him. So the lion fell in love with the lamb. And they finally kiss! And it doesn't stop there, ladies and gentlemen. And good thing vampires heal quickly because it is the sexy time that they have both been longing for. Cue the bang sesh followed by a cuddle sesh. Lilith wakes up with a post-sex glow, but the weather forecast outside is predicting a visit from a god. Uh-oh. Vale tries to convince her to flee with him, but she's a big girl and has to clean up her mess. Back to her town she goes and finds Mina standing out in the field, just like her dad all those years ago. Vitaris finally shows up now that an acolyte has been killed. Lilith faces off with the god and he is not pleased. Running out of options, she offers to make a deal. Then the god tells her, just like her father. What? She sees Vale flying towards them. Oh shit. To distract the god, she tells him her terms. She gives him back everything he gave her father, and he takes back the plague. The deal is done. She gives him some soil, a flower, and finally herself. She has a light bulb moment when it occurs to her how she had lived so long when she was born with a deadly illness. Vitaris is amused and gives her the kiss of death, and he leaves. Slowly dying, Lilith recognizes Mina and Vale. Vale asks if she wants to live, and yes, of course she does. Like Edward saving Bella, Vale turns her. Weeks pass and Lilith has survived. She is officially a vampire. Welcome to the club. Vale is with her, and to her surprise, Mina comes in. They have a beautiful sister reunion and bonding moment. A week later, Mina leaves. Lilith is still recovering and adjusting to her new body. She gives Vale the sixth and final rose she promised him. He asks her to go to Obatrace with him. Our lovers are finally going to the House of Night. And thank you so much for watching. The next summary recap will be on The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, Book 2 in the Crowns of Nyaxia series. If you enjoyed the summary recap, please like, subscribe, and share with your fellow book lovers and to anyone who might find this helpful. And if there are any series you want summary recaps on, just leave a comment below. And thank you so much.